morning, fourth grade. Today I want to talk to you about the math lesson that you are going to be working on over the next few days. It's lesson 104 and covers two-step word problems. I'd like to read the lesson with you and highlight some key things to keep in mind as we go through it. So let's read the lesson. It says, we have practiced two-step problems by finding total prices and change back. Starting with this lesson, we will practice other kinds of two-step problems. Many math problems require more than one step to solve. Writing down the information that is given or drawing a picture is often helpful in solving these problems. And this is very true. Often a math problem is going to give us lots of information, and we need to be able to keep track of that information so that we can correctly solve the problem. So let's take a look at our first example problem in the book. It says, Jim is 5 years older than Tad. Tad is 2 years younger than Blanca. Blanca is 9 years old. So how old is Jim? Now, this problem gives us a lot of information. So we need to break it down to see exactly what it is telling us. First, it tells us that we want to know how old Jim is. So I'm looking for Jim's age. I want to know how old Jim is. Then, the next piece of information tells us that Jim is 5 years older than Tad. So I'm going to make a note of this. Jim, or J, is 5 years older than Tad, which means he's Tad plus 5. The next piece of information says Tad is 2 years younger than Blanca. So this would mean that Tad is 2 years younger than Blanca, or Blanca minus 2. The final piece of information that this problem gives us is that Blanca is 9 years old. So Blanca is 9 years old. Now I can take the information that I've been given here and substitute it in for the different letters that I have up here, hopefully helping us find Jim's age. So I'm going to take the fact that Blanca is 9 years old and fill that letter in here. I'm going to replace the letter B up here with my number 9. I'm going to rewrite it over here to make it a little bit easier to see. So Tad is Blanca, and she's 9 years old, so 9 minus 2. And so what is 9 minus 2? It's right, 7. Tad is 7 years old. Now I can take this information that I have here and fill it up in here in my next equation. So we're trying to find Jim's age. So Jim is Tad, and we discovered over here that Tad is how old again? That's right, 7. So Jim is 7 plus 5. Or we find that Jim is how old? That's right, 12. Now your book also has this information. It's just written down in a little bit different of a formula. So it says here that Blanca is 9 years old. Tad is 2 years younger than Blanca, or, that's right, 7. And Jim is 5 years older than Tad, or, that's right, 12. We see that Blanca is 9. Tad is 2 years younger than Blanca, so Tad is 7. Jim is 5 years older than Tad, so Jim is 12, yes. Our second example has to do with money. It says, Jim paid for 5 pounds of apples with a $10 bill. He got back $6. What is the cost of 1 pound of apples? Now this is important that we keep this in mind, that we're looking for 1 pound of apples because we read that he bought 5 pounds of apples. So first we begin by finding how much all 5 pounds of apples cost. If Jim paid for the apples with a $10 bill and got $6 back, then all 5 pounds that Jim bought must have cost, that's right, $4. So we're subtracting first. We're taking our $10 that he paid for the apples minus the $6 change back that he got to find that the 5 pounds of apples cost $4. Now, our problem, though, didn't want us to find how much 5 pounds of apples cost. Our problem wanted us to find how much 1 pound of apples cost. So now we need to divide those 5 pounds by the $4 that they cost. And when we finish dividing out the problem, we see that each pound of apples cost 80 cents. As you're working through these problems today and tomorrow, be very careful, fourth grade. They can be a little bit confusing or tricky if we're not reading our information carefully and looking for exactly what they're asking us to find.